So I'd just like to welcome all of our viewers, wherever you're tuning in from. We have a wonderful course which is going to be talking about Jews and their obsession with food, and we have a fantastic instructor in Rabbi Mendel Kaplan. And I'm sure many of you have already watched one of his previous classes that he's done. He's featured daily on Chabad.org. But if you haven't, for those that don't yet know Rabbi Kaplan, would you please do them the honor of introducing yourself?
Yaakov Kaplan, my name is Mendel Kaplan. What would you like me to tell you?
Where are you from?
I have the
what do you do?
I have the good fortune of serving as one of the Rebbe Shluchim in the city of Toronto, just north of the city in Thornhill. We have, Baruch Hashem, my wife and I opened one of the proverbial Chabad centers. Today we occupy a space that is more than 50,000 square feet. There are 2 daily minyanim every day. There are dozens of shiurim classes, Torah classes each week, an enormous amount of social activity, children's programs, and 700 people, several hundred that attend on a regular basis each Shabbat. And lots has been done, and there's much more to be accomplished.
So it's fair to say that you're busy.
Just a little.
Well, then we're even more privileged that you gave us your time in instructing for this course.
It has been an honor, although I won't tell you it was easy. That's not usual for me to kind of limit myself in the way that you insisted for this course. But I'm glad we did it, and I thank you for it.
I think people will very much enjoy it.
I hope so.
So getting into this, it's about food and Judaism. A lot of people might have just assumed that they have no sort of connection, or there's no, there's nothing deeper there. It's just, there are laws about food, but it's not that there's, anything that's integral between food and Judaism. But it's an interesting subject, kind of an interesting subject to choose, I should say. And my question is, what about the subject personally interests you or excites you?
Well,
aside from just liking food.
Let's say this. To say that Jewish people are obsessed with food is it's not a difficult thing to say or a difficult thing to get away with. I mean, it's more or less factual. And what interests me in things like this is understanding the deeper background. Is this cultural? Is it religiously oriented? Is it something that comes from a higher, deeper, loftier place, or is it just a matter of fact and can be explained away as a result of anthropological curios or things that may have happened over time? Like there's people say that when you go hungry, you don't like to leave the house without food, or you get more worried about food. Is it because we experience more malnutrition and starvation than any other people on the face of the earth? Is that why we're so obsessed with food? And the answer is most certainly not. And that's like, I did a lot of research for this course. There was a lot of things that I assumed to be the case. But in doing the research, I found out that, in fact, it was the case. This is very biblical. It's very endemic to the Jewish faith, not just the Jewish culture, but the Jewish faith. Food definitely plays an outsized role in our Jewish religious life. And the question, of course, is why? And I think that's something that could interest anybody. And I hope that the course will be of interest precisely because of the kind of excitement or interest that food seems to generate. There's a flair, there's a passion. Different civilizations have always somehow revolved around different kinds of food. The cultural divides amongst Jewish people are very much food-oriented. Shabbat food has been defining for us as a people. But Sephardic Shabbat food, the cholent versus the couscous, these are very interesting things.
Gefilte fish.
Gefilte fish versus sushi. Sufganiyot for those in the Mediterranean area versus the potato latkes for those of us who came from Eastern Europe. I mean, these are many of the divides, but actually it's what brings us together too, because in as much as these foods are so different, there's so much in common.
There is an expression, you are what you eat. So we know that that's true from a physical standpoint. You eat a lot of food and a lot of unhealthy foods, you're probably going to put on the pounds, and if you eat healthy, you'll feel better, etc., etc. But how true is that in a spiritual sense?
I'm going to say very, but that's broad. In this particular course, I think we're going to be taking more of a helicopter bird's eye view of, the Jewish faith and food, and how the two go hand in hand, and why there seems to be so much of an obsession with food rather than what you gain personally by keeping kosher. We'll touch on it somewhat in the first class, but Judaism and food are really a critical and key components that are in fact inseparable to the very raison d'etre of being Jewish, and how we see the world has a lot to do with the way we eat. I think the greatest thing actually that could come from a course like this is, in addition to education, in addition to awareness and knowledge, is the notion of mindfulness. I think that the way we've developed this course, it introduces the potential consumer of food, or literally one who will consume, both one who purchases and eats. It introduces him to a very, very wondrous kind of perspective on life, because food fits into that bigger picture. So it spiritualizes mealtime, spiritualizes eating, and in doing so, it can spiritualize life. It hopefully will make people eat more mindfully. And when we eat more mindfully, we hopefully live more mindfully.
We're going to be talking in this course about food being holy, or food being used for a holy purpose. But that doesn't necessarily have to do with kosher, does it?
Well, I think really that's part of what our students are going to discover. On the surface, it wouldn't seem to necessitate kosher. In fact, some of the Lurianic principles that we introduce actually almost argue for an openness to do away with the limitations of kosher. Why bother? Why couldn't we be more universal in our perspective? Why do we have to get caught up in the particularism in the minutia of living your life this way or that way? I've heard many people say things like, my God is bigger than a little sticker on my hot dogs. And I want to live a life that's filled with love, and a life that's filled with compassion, and I want to be spiritual, and I don't see why a little sticker on my food makes a difference. My God's bigger than that. Well, I think if people have questions like that, they should definitely sign up and join us for this course, because we will be answering those big questions.
So I would move to the next question that I normally ask, which is, there's so much out there, and there's so little time. People are swamped with family, with work. There's not a lot of time they get to do what they want. Why would you suggest or encourage the viewers to take this course in the free time that they have? Well,
firstly, thanks to your insistence, there's a lot of learning packed into a very small amount of time. So I think this is a good way to manage your time, if you have time constraints. But look, eating is something that we all do all the time. It's part of the human condition. If we were to add up all the time we spend eating during the course of our lifetime, it's probably years of your life. And those are mindful years, not the years you spend sleeping on your Sealy Posturepedic mattresses. This is like, you're actively engaged. Think about how much business is conducted over lunch. Think about how many relationships are built over a plate of food. Wouldn't it be important to make the most out of that experience? Wouldn't it be missionful, or something that would interest anybody to have a better handle on and appreciation of the gastronomic experience? What is up with all this? Why do we do this? I mean, this is like a chunk of life. This is not a little detail. It's not like we learn about the mezuzah. Now, I'm not saying the mezuzah is not important, but people put up a mezuzah sometimes once in decades, and we hope they'll check it every couple of years. And it's supposed to inspire mindfulness, as the Rishonim write, when you walk in and when you walk out, like Rambam, Ramban, Sefer HaChinuch talk about that. But really and truly, eating is something we do all the time. Why not do it in a mindful way? Why not do it in a way which is spiritually infused? And that will enhance a basic part of life on a regular basis.
You have me sold.
Well, I'm glad I have you sold. I hope I have all of you out there sold. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing me this privilege of teaching all your students, of sharing words of Torah, and ultimately to be able to share the knowledge of Torah that we're privileged to have is the greatest gift of all. L'chaim.
So this is our first course on the subject of food. Please sign up for this course, enroll. It's fantastic. We have a fantastic instructor. And when you are participating, I encourage you also to join in the conversation, either on the course lesson page or in the Facebook group that's for the course. And Rabbi Kaplan is busy, as he mentioned, with a lot of different responsibilities to his community. But he did give his word and his commitment that he would try his very best to
Try is a big word.
Try is a big word. That he would try his very best to participate, to keep up to date with the conversation and answer where he's able to or where he feels there's something that he can add. So please ask your questions there. I'll be pushing him to answer them. And we look forward to a wonderful course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.